This video is for educational purposes only. It is not personalized financial advisor before making financial decisions.
A highly calibrated system often appears perfectly stable, right up until a subtle, unseen weight throws it off axis. Today, that destabilized system is the modern American middle-class household. Take Mark. He acts as the sole earner for a family of 5, his wife, a young child, and 2 dependent parents. He earns a reliable $90,000 a year. Statistically, that places his household income in the top 25% in the United States. But households do not operate on gross salary. As this conversion demonstrates, once taxes and standard deductions are removed, that $90,000 top-line number filters down to a strict baseline of exactly $7,500 in net monthly take-home pay. A generation ago, that specific amount of monthly cash flow easily absorbed living expenses and generated a compounding surplus. Today, the fixed cost floor required to simply maintain a standard family of 5 has risen so aggressively that the math has inverted. This top-tier income now yields a recurring operating deficit. Every single month, the scheduled outflow of cash exceeds the total incoming supply. Financial security is no longer determined by a high gross salary. It is dictated entirely by the mathematical delta between net income and fixed monthly liabilities. To trace exactly where that $7,500 goes, we can map the specific liabilities on this waterfall chart. First, a $3,500 mortgage, secured with zero down at a peak 7.5% interest rate. Then an $1,100 monthly car loan at 6.5%. Next comes $1,000 for childcare, followed by the unsubsidized reality of feeding a family of 5, $1,500 a month in groceries. Add $450 for utilities and gas, plus a frequently underestimated $550 for Mark's share of family health insurance. The cumulative weight of these standard costs pierces the zero axis. The math leaves the household with a $600 cash shortfall. This is a severe, structural monthly deficit. Extravagance did not cause this. Mark made 4 standard decisions that stacked up against him: taking out a zero-down mortgage, carrying an underwater car loan, spending at the high end of childcare, and holding exactly 0 in emergency cash reserves. Escaping this trap requires a 5-step systematic overhaul of the household's cash flow and assets. Step 1 addresses the immediate threat, illiquidity. The family has no emergency fund. Their only available cash is $12,000 sitting in a micro-trading account managed by Mark's wife, which she wants to use to pay down the car loan. When a household runs a structural deficit, the first law of survival dictates that having immediate access to cash heavily outweighs saving a moderate amount of interest on debt. That $12,000 must be parked immediately into a high-yield savings account. This establishes the strict baseline cushion needed to keep the system solvent. Step 2 establishes the next rule. Before any new capital is invested, that $600 operating gap must be completely closed. Mark can use a dependent care flexible spending account through his employer to shelter up to $5,000 of childcare costs pre-tax. By removing that money from his taxable income, he reclaims roughly $150 a month in direct tax savings. He pairs that by optimizing health insurance during open enrollment and trimming 5 to 10. By rerouting existing tax obligations and making marginal cuts, the structural deficit is eliminated. The foundation is now stable enough to handle capital growth. Step 3 activates trapped capital. Mark holds an inefficient asset, an inherited property currently valued at $500,000. Liquidating this real estate won't trigger a massive capital gains tax bill, and this flowchart shows why. The IRS applies a rule called the stepped-up tax basis, which resets an inherited property's original value to what it was worth on the day it was received. After agent commissions and closing costs, Mark nets exactly $450,000 in clean capital. Step 4 requires a strict order of operations for deploying this new liquidity pool. First, he carves out $30,000 to $40,000. Combined with the existing $12,000, this fully funds a 6-month cash reserve to protect against future income shocks. Next, he routes any planned college savings directly into a 529 plan, ensuring that the capital grows entirely tax-free for future education expenses. That leaves exactly $400,000. This capital goes straight into a broadly diversified, low-cost S&P 500 index fund. To mitigate the risk of entering the market right before a downturn, Mark uses dollar cost averaging. He automatically deploys the funds in equal monthly tranches over a 12-month period, rather than dropping it in as a single lump sum. This projection maps out the trajectory based on historical market averages. Over a 12-year horizon, until his child turns 17, that capital grows to a range between $870,000 and $1.2 million. As that target date approaches, he will systematically shift a portion of those funds into safer assets to lock in the gains. Debt equity has been converted into an automated, tax-advantaged wealth engine. The family's net worth trajectory has been redirected. Step 5 targets the core liability, accelerating the mortgage payoff. Mark currently owes $388,000 on a 30-year term, with 27 years remaining at that peak 7.5% rate. He attacks this using future marginal cash flow. He commits to making exactly one extra full payment per year and allocates exactly 10% of any future raises or bonuses directly to the principal. Applying these two minor automated behavioral changes to a standard amortization curve crushes the timeline, dragging the final payoff date from year 27 all the way back to year 10. He eliminates 17 years of compounding debt without liquidating or touching a single cent of the newly established investment portfolio. Large structural debts do not require massive lump sums to defeat. They fall when you mathematically compound small, automated cash flow increases directly against the principal over time. Mark's top-line gross income of $90,000 never changed, but the underlying mathematical architecture of his household was completely rebuilt. This split screen contrasts the two states. We replaced a fragile system, choked by a deficit, heavy debt, and zero liquidity, with a stabilized structure anchored by cash reserves, an upward growth curve, and an aggressively shrinking debt block. A six-figure income offers the illusion of security. If it is not paired with precise asset allocation and strict deficit management, it guarantees nothing. Real financial security requires a strict sequence of operations. You build a liquid cushion first. You close operational deficits using tax advantages second, and then you let compounding math handle the rest. Escaping the middle-class money trap does not require grinding for a higher gross salary. It requires mastering the mathematics of the money you already keep.